I know this is a proper piss take, but we actually used to have a boom box, like I feel like a right idiot now, wearing like climber fits, tracksuits, walking through like a blue shopping centre, smoking hash joints, listening to like Skibber and Shabba, and people looking at us like, what the fuck's going on there? Obviously it's quite idiotic thinking about it now.
From as far back as most of us can remember, British culture has been defined by its youth tribes. From mods to skins, suede heads to punks, soul boys, ravers, grungers, garage heads and emo kids. The UK has been a breeding ground for young people trying to look different from the rest. These youth cults, born and bred on the streets of Britain and often taken onto a world stage, have come about through a journey of innovation, of experimentation, bravery, fear, love and occasionally violence. We're going to tell the story of that journey, of how through clothes and music, ordinary kids from Camden, Birmingham and Barry helped Britain change the fashion habits of entire generations and develop the UK into the cradle of youth culture it is today.
At least 8 police and 10 concertgoers sustained minor injuries when Guns N' Roses frontman Axl Rose abruptly ended his band's set with some ominous comments about the band's future. Some 2,000 disgruntled concertgoers began to set fires, break into souvenir stands, and overturn cars.
In the beginning of the 1990s, 2 events occurred that would remold the future of rock music forever. Guns N' Roses, arguably the biggest band on the planet, played at Montreal's Olympic Stadium. A riot erupted, causing $1 million worth of damage. Guns N' Roses might have still been selling out stadiums, but the tide on the street was changing. People were disillusioned with the corporate chaos that the world's rock bands had descended into.
I think we should destroy the bogus capitalist process that is destroying youth culture.
In 1991, Reading Festival played host to a thrashy 3-piece from Seattle who would light the touch paper for a new kind of alternative existence.
This is me and a couple of pals and my brother at Reading Festival 91. We were bored of the whole Stone Roses thing, and the whole baggy thing was getting boring for us. I was always into guitar music, and seeing Nirvana 91 was just mind-blowing. Kurt came on in his brown leather jacket with his Sounds t-shirt on and just proceeded to absolutely smash the stage up. That was it. It's just blown our mind. With the demise of sort of, Thatcher stopping everyone raving, people were looking for something else. We were thinking, let's go and see a band instead. With Nirvana, with Mudhoney and all those bands, they had that anti-establishment, 2 fingers up. That was what we drawn to, and the kind of uncertainty of it all, and the power of it, really. And we didn't want any of that poodle perm rock, Guns N' Roses wasn't our thing. We wanted, someone to smash a guitar up.
I was lucky enough to catch the 90s music scene, which is probably the best era for guitar music. I was still in Japan, and bands like Nirvana came out. It was hard to comprehend what they're about at first. They make great noise, they look cool, they're not doing anything in the formula. I came to London and I went to see loads of gigs. It was really lucky for me to experience that. It was raw, really rebellious. I quite like that attitude. It's completely different to Japan. I was feeling extremely cool being there.
These new bands didn't have a look you could hang on a peg. Their style was the sum of many parts told through an Americana vista, a thrift store uniform for the Bush senior generation. Soon this look found a name as Kurt Cobain sent kids from across the country to the local HMVs and Oxfams in search of Graham Parsons albums and baby doll dresses.
We were into style and into fashion, but it was always the music. We just used to study covers and study bands and look how they were dressing. We were buying everything they were wearing. It's a very Midwest truck style, truck jackets, camouflage hats, plaid shirts. It was all band related. It wasn't fashion related. It was all from looking at our heroes. And this was all before the kind of fashion industry kind of really got onto it. To us, we didn't really term it as grunge. We were into punk rock. No one had really termed it grunge until, I suppose, a fashion magazine got hold of it, really.
Jackie Joyner Kersey. Where were you when you got your first period?
I was in English class.
The dishevelled style of bands like Nirvana didn't just impact the kids on the street. This was the last generation to predate the internet, and young people's style, music, politics and drugs were discussed on the pages of magazines like ID. It had been a decade since the title had started life as a photocopied zine on the floor of a flat in West Hampstead. And as the 90s dawned, it was at the forefront of informing new aesthetics.
There wasn't that much interest in fashion, to be honest. It was a massive interest in film and photography. We were looking at people like Larry Clark, Richard Avedon, Danny Lyons, all American photographers, basically. My dilemma was, I felt a bit like a charlatan. I'm not describing anything that I really know about. I'm describing about something that seduced me from Midwest America. I was chatting about this book, The Ballad of Sexual Defense, with Nan Goldin. I was a massive fan because, there were images of Americana which had totally seduced me, but again said nothing about my life. She was like, well, I'm a massive Anglophile. And I kind of thought, do you know what? It's the same. It doesn't matter whether it's in like Nishnally in Osaka or Pennsylvania or Basingstoke. You get the same kind of people that go through the same kind of problems with adolescence and growing up. And it's not that different, really. I didn't feel like a charlatan. I didn't feel like I was pretending to be someone. I could do that, and it doesn't have to be all this Paris, Milan, It can be Basingstoke, Reading, Tyne and Weir. I was shooting something for ID. Nick Knight was a picture editor then. Nick would be looking at pictures and something like that would fall out. And he'd go, oh, what's that? Next thing you knew, he commissioned us. And that was like early 1990s, sort of maybe January. And by March, we commissioned the first story, which was this. Just taking pictures of people we met, not really changing the way they looked. People weren't hiding behind anything. It was warts and all. People loved it. We weren't trying to make a statement. It was just how we thought things should be. And we didn't expect people to pick up on it, and they did pretty quickly. It then became that awful term heroin chic and grunge, which is not very accurate for a start, because I didn't know anyone taking heroin. But people love to label things.
When I started looking at fashion photography, I wasn't interested in Vogue. I was only interested in stuff that was coming from ID in the Face, because I noticed that there was some really great photographers coming through, Jürgen Teller, Corinne Day and David Sims. What they were doing was so special because it was them, it was their kind of lifestyle they were representing. It was like anti-establishment fashion photography. Traditionally, it had been about sort of fantasy, things that are out of your grasp. Photo shoots of very, very perfect women in Monte Carlo with lots of makeup on and big hairdos. But when I saw this stuff, it was like, yeah, this is what real kids do. These people weren't doing fashion shoots because they were interested in designer labels. These people were doing fashion shoots because it was a platform for them to show their idea of what the world should look like. And the fashion was just an element of, right, if we use some designer labels and throw it in there and try and hide it, then we'll have a platform to show our lifestyles. That kind of made me feel very excited about the idea of fashion.
A little on the raw side, I have to say. Some of these people don't seem to live properly.
Fashion editorials had been an unrealistic and unobtainable desire for the majority throughout the 1980s. But as the 90s dawned, a British art director called Phil Bicker commissioned an ex-model called Corinne Day to create some autobiographical pictures for the Face magazine, depicting her own relaxed, carefree, hedonistic experiences.
The photographer, the photographs were always about him, not the subject, and I reversed it.
The result featured a young model called Kate Moss in a playful mood. The pictures opened the floodgates for fashion magazines to discuss a personal dialogue that spoke defiantly about their readership's own experiences.
I think, yeah, she found ordinary beautiful, and you could shoot a girl for an hour and I guarantee you the minute she went like that or got bored, that would be the picture without a doubt. Like, for instance, the first shoot Corinne and I ever did with Georgina, I gave her a Tampax with a blue string. We just thought it was funny. We just got a kick out of it, to be honest. It's stuff you see every day, but it's just stuff no one documented. That is Corinne's iconic sofa. Corinne watching Oasis, cigarettes and alcohol. Yeah, we styled it together.
In 1992, Vogue published a shoot by Corinne Day featuring Kate Moss. But the fashion establishment were not ready to be usurped. People claimed it was glamorising drug abuse, and Vogue lost some of their long-standing subscriptions, but gained a new generation of readers.
It was fantasy, it was glamour, it was bright and colourful, and it was just fake. And I just think, as a reaction to just being like, this is bullshit, this doesn't exist, it should do the opposite. It was just a really free time, do you know what I mean? Like, I was looking in a couple of the ray guns, and I'm like, there's actually no fashion in it, it's our stuff. I found that T-shirt on the floor on a traveller site I used to live on. We just put it together and we'd be like, okay, we'll credit so-and-so because we'd really like to do that jeans campaign. There was just a different kind of freedom, there wasn't sort of the advertising, there was nothing like that.
Ooh, oh, what a feeling.
As the new breed of fashion photographers, stylists and models began to penetrate fashion houses of Paris and Milan, daily life on the streets was as confrontational as ever.
We're here to live our life, you know? And the government know that we're not taking their rules. Fuck the government.
Kids from Brixton, Birmingham and Bristol were determined to escape their circumstances through a brand new scene.
An absolute history lesson in the birth of hardcore and jungle music. The Northerners had this really clean bleeps and bass sound. Down in London, from the likes of people like Rebel MC, Shut Up and Dance. These people had a rougher and rugged sound. All of this stuff started mixing together. You had Alternate, SL2, Prodigy, to create, ultimately, British rave and British hardcore between 1990 and 1993.
I'm keep dancing forever, me. Well, at least till I remember where I put my car.
As house music headed towards the high street, a new kind of British dance music formed the homegrown bass and breakbeat sounds of hardcore, littered with Jamaican influences.
So while you had happy hardcore born out of the whole rave scene go off in its own world, we then heard these super energised jungle records taking that whole vibe of the reggae and creating a brand new sound. And records like Original Nutter just paved the way and are just seminal tracks. I don't think we could find any more bigger than Original Nutter, could we? At the time, they split so far apart, but when you actually listen back to them now, it was a pretty magic thing to watch them come out of the early UK rave scene and both create something so magic. Is my head sweating in the camera? I think I might have told this story 1,000,001 fucking times before.
People knew me for coming to the shows in something sick all the time. Girls especially used to come to the rave to see what I'm going to be wearing next, basically. And I'd always have something spanking for them. Always. And I'll kick myself sometimes because I've got probably a third of what I had. That was a sought-after shirt in the day still. This is probably one of my all-times, again, Moschino wee piece. Name your price, mate, and I still ain't selling. Look, flyers. This is actual Jungle Raves. That was my birthday one. Original classic Versace suit. I remember I took that to the dry cleaners and ended up, I said I was going to burn the whole place down. They ruined that suit. I cut up for weeks about that. It's a one-away suit. Expensive as heck. Ep3 was my favourite rave, as you can see. I've got all the flyers. 96. Oh, take me back, take me back. Oh my gosh. Sega Master System. People at Golden Axe. Oh my God! Spankers. One bad. Bad. Don't piss me off. These are coming out the weekend. Oh my God. Are you serious? Oh my gosh. Bankers.
Anything else, Pushkin?
Loads.
The style of jungle was colourful, expensive. Italian fashion houses like Versace, Moschino and Iceberg paid very little attention when their designs began popping up on the dance floors at Bagley's and at the Stratford Rex. The style was hugely aspirational, young Brits appropriating and conquering style once again.
95, we was like hardcore jungle ravers. We would be raving like Thursday sometimes, right way to Sunday, in school, saving up our money to buy garments on the weekend to go raving, basically. This was like the early jungle days. Rocking the blazers, the three pieces, the flat loafers, sunglasses, the belt. Man would be going out and spending like a bag a week, making sure you're looking smart. That's like the big Peter Pan, Casper Jack. Who would even think of making that kind of girl? Moschino, Shakespeare, writing all over it. I remember wearing that, and that all the yardies want to be my best friend. Could not believe it. Absolutely smashed it. Yeah, and it's come right back round now. Again, if I started to wear this now, I'd be the absolute man. Absolutely, I'm the man anyway. I'll be double the man.
So I dug this out of my loft earlier. Got all of these from when I was younger. All that jungle drum and bass tape packs. Probably swapped like a pack of 20 sovereigns, or like, oh, you owe me a tenner, I'll just have that tape pack. I went to my first rave, snuck in with the older boys, and I was like 15. Basically, I had a fake ID. The whole train journey going up there, I was trying to remember the name, giving it to the bouncer, and he's like, oh, what's your name? And I was like, oh, I forgot. And then he was like, yeah, fuck off, mate.
31 seconds. As the jungle sounds became heavier and darker, the events erred away from the bouncy excitement of ragga and hardcore.
America got hip-hop, Jamaica, they got their ragga. We got jungles just showing life on the streets.
There was little left of the harmonious spirit of early rave. As the organised drug trade began to dominate the scene, violence and robberies became commonplace.
I'd loved it, but it was quite scary. Like, I saw quite a few robberies and stuff. There's loads of rude boys robbing young little white boys for their like money and drugs. It was just a really aggressive scene. I know, like, proper back in the day that it was a bit more lovey-dovey, but the stuff I was into was a bit more bassy and quite dark. And I think that was a lot of the reason why there was so much trouble at the rave.
I felt that I was in this long, dark tunnel.
But not every child of rave was as tough as jungle. Industrial rock had developed a repetitive beat in the 80s, drawing goths onto the dance floor. Euro house sounds had helped develop a cybergoth scene that took the original acid house aesthetic towards the 21st century. Part candy bracelet raver, part cradle of filth. It was a scene that looked a long way into the future, with its luminous fake dreadlocks, furry boots, gas masks and goggles. It was tribal, camp and confrontational, all at the same time.
I just didn't imagine that it would grow like it grew, to be honest. But the one thing I knew really early on is I wanted the shop, a shop, that captured captured how you felt when you walked into a club. I've always loved music. I always liked to dance, you know, I was a soul girl before any of this dance music came out. I started going to these clubs, but I just couldn't find the clothes that matched this music for me. And there was all these UV backdrops in some of these clubs, and I was like, I want to glow like that. I want to glow. So we started to do neon prints, really off-the-wall kind of trippy images. I came up with Cyberdog because actually I was stoned one night, but it was based on my Chihuahua. We were just saying he looks like an alien. I said, like, he's like a cyberdog. And I swear that's how we come up with the name. Shut up! Shut up! There started to be clubs which I visited, like Slimelight, and you had to dress really fetish, really. It was an eye-opener, and I thought I'd seen quite a lot. It probably was the original goths started to kind of get into that scene because they liked the music because it was a bit harder, but obviously they weren't necessarily into S&M, but they were completely black, completely latex, rubber, and this ravey sort of neon stuff wasn't quite right for that scene. We've always had black clothing, but I started to put neon flashes into it because they didn't have that in those clubs. It was all black and dark. I don't want to say that we started that whole thing, but in a way we probably did. So now they call themselves cyber goths, I suppose. They're not just black, they like a bit of colour, they have a bit of neon, they'll have coloured hair. It's more playful. They come from all over Europe, really. Italy, France, Germany. A lot of people move to London if they're a bit alternative, because it maybe is not that easy in their home city. Don't get me wrong, I think they still get people laughing or saying things to them on the street, but they know they've got a place. They've got a place. They've got places they can go. There's other people like them. I think how it's progressed mainly is this addition to colour into it, and obviously there's now a lot of tattooing, piercing. There's always been a kind of cyborg element to the clothes. It's all about modification, and so, you know, they'll wear a mask with their eyes done amazingly. There's a kind of like androgynous, are we human type element that I love, and actually this culture embraces. I think it was very much a sort of hidden, you were black and white, and now they're not. They're out and proud. You know, it's a bit like that.
Let's go! As we reached the end times of the decade, century and millennium, it was clear that youth culture was beginning a schism further afield. The world was becoming smaller, and the predictability of scenes remained elusive. The world would soon change forever. Youth culture would adapt and the style tribes became angry once more. American reinventions of heavy metal and emotional hardcore were introduced to the huge, gleaming shopping centres of Britain. And the playful elements of Machino and Iceberg became monotone and to some, worryingly anonymous.